Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relationship Mastery Series. Principles to a Passionate Life in Relationships and Dynamite Families. I'm Alan Darbonne, and I'll be your host for this series, and I really want to welcome everybody. I've been able to gather 25 wonderful experts from all over the world, different countries, from many different continents, and they're going to share with you their knowledge and experience and expertise and tips on the whole principle in terms of, okay, how do you get that relationship that you want? And if you have it, how do you keep it? And when we break it, because we all do at times in relationships, how do you repair it and get it back on the road to where that love is flowing again and the passion? And I'm really excited today because I have on the program with us Susan Sheppard. And Susan is the founder of Getting What You Want, a life and relationship coaching organization created to inspire and educate women to express their feminine power and to get exactly what they want from their man. She's the author of two wonderful books, How to Get What You Want from Your Man Anytime, and the second, Dating After 40. No More Excuses. I like that. She created the unique 5-step Love with Class home study program, and she's been an RN since 1964, and she also had 40 years of crisis intervention. And for all of us that have been in relationship, we know there is some relationship there in terms of crisis intervention and relationships and keeping love alive. You can visit Susan on her website, gettingwhatyouwant.com. And I want to let the audience know that at the very end of the program, Susan is offered to give a wonderful free gift to all of our viewers. And so stay tuned to the last minute, because I'm also going to give you the link of how to get that free gift. And so be sure to watch for that as we in the interview. So Susan, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on the program and have your experience.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be able to share with you some of what I've done in my long career of doing this.
We both had a lot of years at this, and it's been wonderful watching it evolve through the years to where it is now, and all the information that we have, and at the same time, some fundamentals being as solid back when we started as they are now. So tell me a little bit about how did you get into this whole coaching relationships thing?
Well, it's a little bit of a funny story, but I'll try to make it brief. So I was actually a business coach. I worked for Michael Gerber and had evolved a little from my nursing career, where I was a hospital administrator in emergency department. And I had been coaching business, and I got divorced from my husband, who was a great man and a lost soul. He was a Vietnam vet with PTSD. Mm-hmm. And when I got divorced from him, I thought, this is wrong, because he's a wonderful man and I'm a great lady, and we should be able to make this work, and I can't figure out how to do it. So I took every course I could find on relationships for my own benefit, mm-hmm. never intending to share it with anybody. And I started dating a young man. He was actually considerably younger than me, 18 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. And he was Persian and Jewish, and the firstborn son of 7, and his mother and I were the same age. So we did not date very long. Uh-huh. He went back to dating his old girlfriend, and they had a very dramatic relationship for about 2 years, breaking up, back together, all sorts of drama. And after that 2-year period, where she didn't really like me very much, and he and I remained friends. And I happened to run into her one day, and she said to me, oh, I'm so happy to see you. And I'm like, why? You don't even like me. And she said, well, you're right. I don't, but you have something I want. And I said, well, what is that? And she said, you have a relationship with a man that I want to have. I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I've been watching while I was his girlfriend and you were his friend, and he was different with you than he was with me. And it was always like I had his body, but you had his soul. And I want you to teach me how to do that. And when I picked my chin up off the floor, I said, no way. But then she kept asking. And so I finally agreed to do it on a trial basis. And she ended up being my first relationship client.
Oh, wow. How fascinating.
I actually worked with her for 2 years. During that 2-year period, developed my love with class system. I didn't call it that then, but, that I developed a system that I used to this day, 27 years later.
Fantastic. Wow. That is quite a story. That's very special.
It was a lot more fun talking about love and sex than it was talking about management and marketing.
I get that. So I'm interested in hearing more about this 5-step love with class process. And so if it's okay with you, I'd like to jump right into that.
Absolutely.
That is something I would love to have you share with our audience.
Absolutely. So, like I said, with this girl, I developed this system. And, quite a few years later, I was at a seminar where someone said to me, well, do you do the same thing with your clients all the time? And I said, absolutely. And they said, well, name it a system. Call it something. And I went, oh, okay. They said, make it 5 or 7 steps. And so I said, all right. And I wrote down what I did with my clients, which was consistently the same thing. And within 10 minutes, I was able to come up with the acronym CLASS. And that's the 5 steps of the process that I use. And I'm happy to share them with you.
Great. So it's CLASS.
CLASS, right. So the C stands for clarity. It is, what do you want? What kind of a life do you want? What kind of lifestyle? What kind of relationship? Do you want to get married? Do you want a boyfriend? Do you want someone who lives next door and travels with you? Do you want a booty call? I mean, really, what is it that you want your relationship in your life to look like? And so I give them a lot of tools to basically do a snapshot of their life and see what's going on, and where are they, and where are the areas that they need to pay attention. So that's step 1, clarity. And it really, the areas I have them look at is relationship and finance and environment and health. And just have them take a quick look at those things and check out their values and just see what's really important to them. The second step, the L step, was really kind of unique. It's the love yourself step. Because what I discovered in most of the clients that I worked with, practically, I would almost have to say all, although I very rarely use that word all, that they all had self-esteem issues from being rejected. And also for various other reasons, whatever people have self-esteem reasons for. You being the therapist that you are, I'm sure everybody's got some self-esteem issues.
Absolutely. Right. We don't get to be adults without being injured. That's for sure.
Not at all. And so my love yourself step is very unique. It is actually a step that people get to decide who they're looking for, decide what's important to them in the way of values, decide what their deal breakers are, and really learn about themselves, what it is they're attracted to and what it is that turns them off. And that process is very unique. I have them maintain a certain state of mind, which is that they are not concerned with what other people think about them, and do some research and really do some extensive research into the opposite sex. So that's the love yourself step. And they all think it's about meeting somebody of the opposite sex, but actually it's not about that at all yet.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what you offer there, to know that, yeah, you take a unique approach there, and it's a very valuable approach. It's got some insights
What
from
happens
experience
to
in it.
people is this, and this is, I think, the most profound part of the work that I do. And I use a lot of tools. I mean, I'm an NLP therapist, I'm a hypnotherapist. You know, I've done a lot of self-evaluation work. So I have a lot of tools.
Right.
And what happens to them in this process is that they get to be who they need to be to attract who they want to attract.
Mm.
So they grow. They have to heal first from their broken or wounded heart. And then they have to grow, because if you don't grow, if you don't step outside your comfort zone and grow, you're going to keep attracting the same person over and over.
Mm.
And which I'm sure you're very familiar with.
Very familiar.
I mean, I have clients who had been married 4 times and are now married for the 5th time successfully.
Hmm.
And because the first 4 were all the same and the 5th one is different.
Right.
So that
question keeps coming. Why do I keep meeting these people that have these characteristics?
That's who you are and who you attract. Then the 3rd step, the A step, is it's more for women than it is for men, because men really kind of are taught how to do this when they're children, is how to ask for what they want. But little girls are taught it's not polite to ask for what you want. And so little girls are taught how to hint and be somewhat devious about getting what they want. And so my 3rd step, the A step, is learn how to ask for what you want. And it's a very simple formula. It has to do with a strategy for asking anybody for anything and having them actually hear what you're asking for and be able to give you it if they want to. Mm. And so it's really a lot of my clients call it the AAA. It's acknowledge, ask, and appreciate. And it really is acknowledge the person who can actually grant you your request in some way authentically. And really, it must be authentically. You have to be honest and sincere and it's not okay to pander to people. You know, it really must be something, even if you're so angry at this person that the only thing you can acknowledge them for is, thank you for standing here in front of me listening to me. You know, even if it's that, it opens a pathway for them to be able to hear your request. And your request needs to be direct, and it needs to be specific. It needs to be something like, you know, my birthday is in 6 months and I would really like a romantic weekend at the beach with you alone, where we can have a romantic dinner and you can buy me roses. Red ones. Very specific. And the women say to me, well, why do I always have to ask for what I want? I said, because you're the one who wants it. Men are not mind readers. And so they learn and they start doing it, and they find that when they make those requests and they do it in a way in which they actually acknowledge someone first, they actually get results, and they're so surprised. And it's so interesting to watch it happen.
Right.
And then the first S stands for success, with what I consider to be the 3 essential ingredients of a successful relationship. And those 3 ingredients are chemistry, compatibility, especially with your deal breaker issues, and love with respect. And I think if you're missing any one of those, your relationship is actually doomed. If you have them all, it doesn't guarantee success. However, it gives you a really good foundation to move forward in the relationship. Right. And, you know, if you have everybody knows about the chemistry. Chemistry is the easy part. Pretty much that's what people get married for most of the time, is chemistry, and they forget to look any further. Yeah. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who've said, well, I knew before I was walking down the aisle that there was this issue and that issue, but, you know, I could fix that, or it was going to get better, or maybe she would change her mind, or maybe he would change his mind. And I'm like, yeah. Or maybe I would change my mind. Get real, you know. I know. None of those things happen. It's like when you have a deal breaker, you need to walk away. It's like, hello. It's really crazy, but I can't tell you how many clients over this 27 years who have said, well, I knew, when I was walking down the aisle, and I'm like, then why did you walk down the aisle? Well, the invitation had gone out, or, my dad would have been upset, and I'm like, oh, really? Really?
Right.
And then the last S stands for step up and step out, because if you have done all the work that I've given you to do in those first 4 steps, and it's a lot of work. I don't mince words with my clients. I tell them, look, this is a process. It is not an instant fix. It is not something that, okay, here's your magic pamphlet that's going to tell you how to do this. It is a process, and it requires your attention and your work and your commitment to change. Because if you don't change and grow and expand your comfort zone and change your perception about who you're looking for, you're going to end up with the same thing you've always had.
Yeah.
And so I actually tell my clients, look, you're not dating until you get to step 5. Until that time, you're only doing research.
Great.
And they go, oh, well, that's interesting. So it's really an interesting process, but naming that process and identifying the steps was so easy for me when I did it, which was about 15 years into my coaching already. I'd already been doing the same thing for years and years and years. And so it was really quite simple to call it a process and give it a name and identify the steps and just put it together. And I found it's like a magical process.
I really hope that all of you who are viewing and listening to this, that you're taking notes, because there's some golden information
Nuggets
Susan just shared with you. And, it's funny. It's like it takes work, but gosh, it doesn't take nearly the work and the despair of being in a bad relationship.
And you know what happens? What happens to my clients, especially with this second step, the love yourself step, because when I give it to them, they go, what? You want me to do what? And I tell them, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. And I said, and you're going to hate it at first. And the second time you do it, you might be a little better with it. But by the 4th time you do it, you're having fun and it becomes an adventure.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about that is that most people don't realize, and women that are asking that question of you don't realize that that's extremely attractive to a man. Not someone who's so egotistical, narcissistic, but somebody who really, from the core, has done the work you've been talking about, where they exude, I know that I've got something to offer.
They have self-confidence at that point. What happens when they do this process is that they heal first, and then they start to grow. And I'm a huge advocate of going outside your comfort zone. I tell them, you must meet people that you've never before encountered. And really get to know who they are. This is the way you can change your perception, because ultimately we all have a preconceived notion of who the opposite sex is for us based on the intimate relationships we had when we were children.
Yeah. Where else are we going to get them, right?
Yeah.
That's our information.
Exactly. I'm so sure of my system that, and I used to do this, I've sort of revised it a little bit. I used to say, I will guarantee you a relationship in a year if you follow this process. Exactly. The problem is they get distracted and don't follow the process.
Right. But they hold you to the year.
They hold me to the year. I'm like, okay, wait. There's something wrong with this picture.
Right. Now, you were mentioning about comfort zone, and I'm interested in terms of what, like for people that are getting back into this that are over 40, what are the main issues that come up for those individuals in your experience?
What a perfect question for you to ask. I'm going to show off a little bit.
Okay.
Here's my little book.
Yes.
It's called Dating After 40, No More Excuses. And what is in this little book? And literally, it is 5,600 words. So it's like a big essay.
Mm.
And it is 10 myths that the over 40 crowd believe are true, you know.
Uh-huh.
And they are, the only places to meet men are bars. All the good men are taken. Women over 40 hate sex. A lot of men believe that. Women want a sugar daddy. A lot of men believe that. Women expect too much. The marriage word will spur the great escape. Men and commitment are like oil and water. Plastic surgery is my answer. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that one. Women seriously outnumber men, and men are only interested in women half their age. And that's the 10 myths that I really destroy in this little book. And it's so much fun. It's such a fun little adorable book. And I just printed these about a month ago.
Oh, fantastic. Perfect timing.
4 inches by 6 inches is how big they are.
That's
and
great.
In your pocket. You know.
I was just thinking that. Put that in your purse and in your pocket. And
really what it is, it's an introduction to my style of coaching, because they really get a feel for who I am by the way I answer those things. And I just destroy all those myths. They're just stories that people have bought into. It's like, oh, I can't date after 40. I'm divorced. I haven't been out on a date for 30 years,
Yeah.
And I have clients who are now happily married, who had been married for 30 years, got married to the first person they ever had a relationship with, and were married for 30 years in a not so good relationship, and now is totally happy and has been married at age 55, got married, and has been married for another 15 years. And happily married.
So I would love it if you would share a few more tips in terms of how to deal with that particular issue and those myths. I think that would be valuable information.
Absolutely. So which one do you want me to talk about?
Just pick any of them.
All right, let me talk about the bar one.
Each one of those so many times.
Everyone thinks, the only place to meet men is bars, and that is so far from the truth. I tell my clients, look, open the newspaper. There are free seminars everywhere, every week. Real estate, stock market, education seminars, reading, just seminars on anything, even art and book clubs, whatever. Anything where you can go where the ratio is likely to be more in your favor. And don't go with a bunch of women or a bunch of men where you're going to hang out together and commiserate.
Right.
Go by yourself. And then ask a lot of questions and go to these places and be sincerely interested in what is going on. The one that I found where you find a lot of men is real estate investment groups. And I love learning about real estate to begin with. So you go to real estate investment groups, there's probably, the ratio is probably 80-20 men to women in the real estate investment group. And those free seminars that all those real estate gurus give out, you can go to those for free. Also, self-awareness stuff, Landmark, and any of those educational personal growth seminars, they're a great place to go to meet people. And then you just go and search out people that you've never met before, new people, and ask a lot of questions.
Great suggestions. You get to learn a lot and for your life while you're also having an opportunity to be in contact with more men.
The other one that I would talk about to you is the one where it says men only want women half their age. It's not true. I have personally coached several men who did date women who were half their age. One was 46. He was dating a 23-year-old. He also happened to have 6 kids and a 20-year-old son. And he was in a serious relationship with this woman for about 2 years. And then when they finally ended it, and he said, I was so relieved that she I bought her a car and sent her back to New York. You know, she wanted the party life, and he was looking for a mate and someone who would help him with his children, you know, not to take over as a stepmother or anything, but at least to have some kind of balance, you know,
Right.
with the kids, because he had 6 kids. And then he was almost 50, I think, and was dating a 23-year-old. And his intention was, well, I want to have kids. So, you know, I want to date somebody who's young enough to have kids. And she wanted to party and, you know, sit home, watch TV and eat bonbons. And he wanted her to have a job until they got ready to have kids. And she goes, I'm not having kids. And so that was the end of that. And so they were both very disappointed, and then started dating people that were more connected with them age-wise.
Right.
And I'm a high advocate of the age difference thing. I don't care. I actually had a deal breaker break up one of my relationships because I was 69 dating a 43-year-old who wanted to have kids. And it was like, you know, that's not possible. And I love you and you love me, but this is not going to work.
Right. And it depends on what the relationship is about, and it goes back to earlier points you were making, you know, being really clear about, well, what is it you're actually wanting, you know, and
you know, you're
what are
talking
the
about
chances?
values are really important, and ideals, and really the deal breakers. I mean, everyone has deal breakers, and some of those deal breakers are silly. I mean, some people have a deal breaker that involves something as silly as putting the cap back on the toothpaste, or something as ridiculous as that, being a little more OCD or something. But smoking, or, I mean, there's the obvious deal breakers, the abuse and, you know, neglect and all that kind of stuff. Somebody wanting to live on a farm in Indiana and someone wanting to live in the big city in New York, that's a deal breaker.
Right.
You know, so recognize what your individual deal breakers are and identify them, and be clear about them, and realize that when somebody has one of those deal breakers, that you have to walk away. It's not going to work. And it can be the way they handle money. It can be the way they keep house. It can be having children, not having children. I had clients who were married for years and were having a terrible time. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And they said, finally, I got the man to admit, he says, well, I really, really want a family. And I said, but she told you before you got married that she didn't want to have kids. Oh, I know, but I figured she'd change her mind.
Yeah. Gosh.
Oh,
breaks your heart when you hear that, because individuals really do believe that, and the research just shows that doesn't work. Yeah. So if you could summarize, and I know this is asking a lot, but could you say, from your experience and sense of things now, what do men really want from a woman, and what do women really want from men?
Oh, I can do that in a minute.
Oh, all right.
Here's what I think.
Pencils out, folks. Write this down.
Here's what I think men want. I think men want approval, appreciation, and sex, not necessarily in that order. They want to be approved of. They want appreciation for the hard work they do. And they want sex. And the reason that women have issues with it, and they go like this and they miss each other, you know, is because women want acknowledgement of their intelligence, because we all have been treated as second-class citizens our whole life. They want appreciation as well for all the work they do taking care of everyone. And they want sensuality and seduction. And so what happens is, though the men want sex and the women want sensuality, they miss something.
It ain't necessarily the same thing, folks.
The same thing. And even though the end result is the same, you know, they miss each other sometimes. But yes, I think that those are some crucial ingredients to what goes on. And women, you know, women expect men to understand what it is they want without them having to say so. And men are just kind of clueless about what women want. And I don't mean to put down men at all, because I think men are fabulous. I adore them.
I know you do.
I think that they are just wonderful creatures who just want to be heroes and want to, step up and take care of us. And I think, and this may be my age showing, but I think the women's lib motion may have done us some damage.
Mm. Well, there's a place there, yeah, where the shadow side of everything, and
there's good and bad to it. I mean,
right.
Yes, it's wonderful that women can achieve a lot more things, but we don't have to bash men in order to do that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's a very, very important point, and it's something that you see when there really is experience and maturity. Then a lot of that stuff drops away on the side of both men and women, and so I really appreciate your summarizing those two things. You did a wonderful job. I thought, well, let me see what she's going to do in a minute here.
Thank you.
You did great.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people, in 27 years.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We're getting kind of toward the end of our time, but I have to ask you one question. What is being a nice bitch?
Oh. Some of my favorite terminology, actually. As far as I'm concerned, a bitch is this: brave, intelligent, tenacious, creative, and honest.
Wow.
That's what bitch is.
There's an acronym for you.
Different than what most people think. Mm-hmm. And what I've witnessed is that when women ask for what they want in a way that they can be heard, a lot of people will call them a bitch. Mm-hmm. And so my being a really nice bitch is all about learning that ask the AAA formula for how to ask for what you want. It's sort of like this. So, Alan, you are an extremely kind and generous man to share this summit with me. Mm-hmm. And what I want is for you to advertise for me my Love with Class system. I don't like that word advertise, but talk about it at least. And I would be so appreciative of anything you can do to steer people to that website so that they can actually benefit from my 27 years of knowledge. That was me using the AAA formula.
And that's beautiful. I mean, there's no question I am going to say yes to that. Happily. Because I can, that's something that I can deliver, and you're asking it in such a way that it's acknowledging and honoring me, and of course I'm going to give that.
Good.
And so that's a wonderful example of exactly what can happen. And if partners can get that and understand what that's about, it truly is dynamite.
I could tell you a little. Do we have a few minutes? I could tell you a little funny story about that.
Yeah, we have. Let's take a couple more minutes.
Okay. So one of my friends has been married for 20 years to a gentleman who's pretty much auditory digital. He's a computer guy. Uh-huh. And she's used to tell me, she says, well, every time I ask him to do something, he says, I'll do it later. And then he never does it. And I said, well, why don't you try using my little formula on him? And she said, well, he's going to see right through that. I said, just test it. So she told him one day, she says, oh, I really appreciate how you take care of all our digital equipment and you make our computers run, even when they get glitches and they get viruses or whatever it is. And you do such a great job of taking care of that. And I really need you to fix this thing on the hard drive of my computer. Would you please do that for me this afternoon? And she said the entire time she was acknowledging him, she says, oh, he's going to see right through this. He's going to think I'm such a phony, whatever. And she said later that evening they were having dinner and he said to her, That was the nicest way you've ever asked me to do anything in the entire time I've known you. That was so lovely. I really appreciate that. And he had fixed her computer.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you could give me a printed sheet saying this is exactly what I'm going to be doing, and it's still going to work.
Well, of course it works.
If it's, as you're saying, if it's something that you're being honest about,
yeah, and
I'm going to let that in.
I truly believe that this is true, that men will stay in a relationship longer for approval than they will for sex.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah. That the approval and appreciation is definitely, because that's, I mean, it's the old saying that if as a man, if you want to be happy, keep your woman happy. And
exactly.
there's a shallow way of saying that, but there's something much more profound.
I know.
And so, as you're saying, I mean, as a man to women, I'm saying, really cue me in on what that might be. You know, what is it you're wanting?
What do you want?
Because I want to make you happy.
I think it makes a woman be kind of sexy too, to really know what she wants. I think, you know, when they are able to maintain that attitude, is that I'm not really trying to be who you want me to be. I am who I am, and this is what I want. And if you can get that for me, I would really appreciate it.
There you go. Yep, there you go. Yeah, there's a sense of self-respect and self-honoring in that, and again, that's very attractive to a man, and to almost all men. I mean, if you're a narcissist, that's going to pass you, but
there are those.
But other than that, it's very important information for women to know that, and also for men to know that, you know, very often we don't have a clue. And so be aware that sometimes the woman you're with is struggling with that, giving herself permission to speak to you. So if she hasn't had the opportunity to meet Susan, there may be ways you can kind of support that and let her know that.
I find the most rewarding part of this work is getting people to really evolve into who they need to be in order to attract who they want. I think that the privilege of being able to assist somebody in becoming more of who they are is so valuable and so incredible that it is my life's work, and I've tried to quit many times. And I keep coming back to it because
well, that's it. And as you say, it's because it is so nourishing to experience when that happens. It truly gives great meaning. And another element of that is when that's going on in a relationship and the two parents are doing that with each other, believe me, the kids are watching that. And the impact that has is more than 1,000 of your lectures.
Oh, absolutely.
They are watching, how do you love each other?
Yes.
And that really is the big lesson. And they go out and love the world in a similar way if you do it right.
Our children are so brilliant. They are so aware and so brilliant. And that's what gets squashed in them. And they forget that all the things they learned when they were growing up. And I think that's a sad thing about our culture at the moment. Yeah.
The good news is that there's some people that are paying attention to that, yourself and myself, and a number of the individuals that have been a part of this Relationship Mastery Series. And that really does warm my heart to know that there's another force that's out there. And
it's a little piece of the world that we get to touch.
Right.
It makes me happy. So I hope that my contribution I guess it's my legacy. It's the thing I want to leave. I have 5 grandchildren, and I want them to know all the things that I've learned, and it's really important to me to leave it as a legacy, to leave this knowledge for future generations, because it's been a hard lesson for me to learn.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you are doing that. I appreciate that that's who you are, and I really appreciate you being a part of the program today.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I so love talking about this work.
So do I.
I don't know if you can
tell. So before we do leave, I'd love you to tell our viewing audience what your free gift is for them today.
Well, my free gift is a copy of my book, How to Get What You Want from Your Man Anytime. It's the ebook.
Wow.
And my Love with Class home study program.
That's wonderful. That's very generous of you. And please, viewing audience, pick up your free gift. And the way to do that, you're going to see right after this interview, there is a link. And you just put your name and your email address down and click on that link. And that will take you to having access to the wonderful, generous gift that Susan is offering you. And so again, thank you, Susan. And thank you, audience, for being with us. And in closing, I'm Alan Darbonne. And I just want to say something that I say often, that I just want to remind you that the planet really does need your unique love and your unique light. And so bring your kindness and speak your truth. We all really, really are waiting for that. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Susan.